no fury like a woman scorned. That phrase has been around for a very long time, but not nearly as long as the myth we're talking about today, Lilith. Lilith embodies that phrase in so many ways, and while you may have heard the name, you may not realize just how long Lilith has been a part of history and legend. Her importance as a symbol, as well as the part she plays in the birth of mankind as per religious belief, is something that cannot and should not be overlooked. Nor should the terrifying story that followed when she stood up to God when it came to equality. Behold, the first, and I do mean first, feminist. We're journeying back to the beginning of everything as we look into the myth and legend of Lilith. The biblical story of creation is probably one of the most well-known stories in, well, creation. God made the heavens and the earth. He made the animals and then created Adam to tend them. When he saw Adam was becoming sad and morose, lonely without a mate of his own, God took action. While Adam slept, he removed a rib and made for him a mate in the form of Eve. Of course, we know how all this turned out. Eve got a raw deal in the form of a snake and an apple. Committing the first sin, Eve managed to get herself and Adam thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Not only that, but the loss of innocence made them realize their shame of nakedness and doubt. They had their children, Cain and Abel, and again, we know how that worked out. But what if that wasn't the whole story? If we look into Jewish religious text, it is believed that Eve wasn't Adam's first wife, but his second. The first was Lilith, and the relationship between this first man and first woman was rocky to say the least. Lilith was made at the same time as Adam, as opposed to Eve, who was made from a piece of Adam. That meant Lilith was made from the same quote-unquote clay as Adam, a sign of their equality. But then something happened that changed everything. What many believe translates to Lilith wanted to be on top during sex. You can take this literally or figuratively, but it comes down to Lilith refused to not be an equal to Adam. This doesn't please either God or Adam from what the story has become, and so Lilith left Eden. Depending on what version you read, the story goes a few different ways, but with the same conclusion, that Lilith stuck to her guns and refused to return to life in Eden. One version of the story says she went forth and mated with the angel Samael. Lilith would go on to be known as a mother of demons and devils, thanks to this tryst. 3 angels attempted to get Lilith to return to Eden, but she would not. These 3 angels are represented on the medallion to ward off Lilith that is given to children to wear as babies. You see, it came to pass that Lilith, either by choice or curse from God, was bound to feast on the lives of all of Adam and Eve's children, meaning mankind. Lilith's own offspring would become the stuff of nightmares and legends themselves. With the title Mother of Demons or Queen of Demons, Lilith's brood would include succubuses and incubuses. Lilith herself would become known to be associated with vampires in pop culture as well as history thanks to her hunger for blood. Her name would be associated with and translated to the names Night Demon, Night Monster, as well as Night Owl. Lilith's particular brand of demonic entity became primarily known as a child killer, but her story has been around for longer than Christianity, with Babylonian texts talking of Lilu, demons who feasted on victims both male and female, no matter what the age. There are also the Lamashtu, who also have a particular fondness for children. The name and the story, specifically the part about the death and murder of children, show up in various historical and ancient texts. At one point, Lilith was said to have been actually the serpent that tempted Eve and gave her the curse of knowledge. This is interesting in a couple of ways. Firstly, there's the thought of a woman seducing another woman, apparently still shocking even today. Second, you have Lilith coming back to Eden under the guise of another creature, giving the hapless new bride the knowledge and truth of reality, maybe out of revenge and spite, or perhaps simply wanting to open her eyes to see what was actually going on around her. This thought of Lilith being the serpent crosses over into the Lamia myth from ancient Greece. Lamia has more than a little similarity to Lilith. In the story of Lamia, she is a queen who has an affair with Zeus. Never a good thing. When Zeus's wife Hera finds out, she curses Lamia to eat her children that were produced as part of the affair, as well as cursing her with never being able to rest or sleep. Zeus, supposedly thinking these two things would make up for the cannibalistic mother role she'd been forced into, gave her the power of prophecy and the ability to take out her own eyeballs in a way of helping her sleep. While the eyeball thing isn't really shared between them, the being cursed by a god, or in this case goddess, role is. There is also the being cursed to feed on the flesh of her children, and also the role of being a scandalous woman made to pay for her sins by another woman. But that's not the only interesting similarity between Lilith and Lamia. The offspring of both carry their name, with the Lamias being known as the Lamai. These demons also seduce men and feed on them after taking their pleasures with them. The Lamia is also thought to be part serpent and very snake-like in their movements. I find this very interesting considering that some believe Lilith was in fact the snake in Eden. Considering these beliefs cross countries and centuries, that's quite the feat. Lamashtu was another female demon. She would, as the others, take and devour young children. She would also eat men and drink their blood. In a twist that would make most horror movie fans laugh, the way to fight Lamashtu was to call forth the demon Pazuzu. According to the mythology, he was Lamashtu's rival. He also happens to be the demon in The Exorcist, so not quite who you would think of first when it comes to protecting anyone, let alone children. Lilith would find a far more sympathetic audience in recent times thanks to the rise of feminism and a rise and return to paganism and witchcraft. Starting in the 1960s and through current times, Lilith has become an icon to women in search of equality. Lilith has become a power source and name for women who see the story of Adam's first wife as one all too familiar to them. She was a woman who saw her own worth, owned her sexuality, and wouldn't bow down to being bullied and bossed around. This was something women could understand and sympathize with. Lilith, alongside Hecate and Morgan, had become icons and goddesses of power in magicraft, with she and Hecate being called upon during spells and incantations, sometimes with Lilith being known as the First Mother. Thanks to her association with sexual independence, she's considered to be a deity to celebrate desire. Lilith Fair, starting in the late 90s, was an alt music celebration of female artists. The event was a massive success and was founded by Sarah McLachlan. It celebrated female independence and holds a place in music history. Lilith has shown up in various books, games, cartoons, films, and television over the years. One major example that crossed over a few of those was Vampire the Masquerade. Lilith would also be the first vampire, mother to them all, in the final season of True Blood. Most recently, Lilith has been showing up on a couple of Netflix series. She was shown as the mother of demons in Lucifer, but more prominently was one of the main characters in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, where she was also known as the Queen of Hell and Madam Satan. In this series, she's Satan's concubine and very possessive of him. Sadly, that series was sent to hell by Netflix way before its time. Lilith's is a complicated story. Like most women, she's got a good side and a bad side, but you have to admit there's some strength there, and it's easy to see why she's become an icon for women throughout the decades, possibly longer. She stood her ground and paid a terrifying price for it. Was it worth what she paid? Whatever the answer, the fact is, she's still being talked about today, still worshipped, as well as feared. And I can't really say the same for Adam. Thank you for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our Joe Blow Videos channel. Tell your friends who like this sort of content and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest videos. We're an independent company and we appreciate all of your support.